أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. My respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome you to this workshop on the pillar of our faith, on Salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The main reason behind our creation, the main purpose is for us to worship God, to get to know our Creator, the Master of the universe. So it's very important that we familiarize ourselves with Salah. We'll briefly talk about the significance of Salah. Why is prayer so important? Then we'll talk about the conditions of Salah to make sure that we are offering a valid, proper prayer. Then we'll talk about doubts in Salah. Oftentimes we have doubts in some acts of prayer, in some of the units of prayer. What do we do in these cases? Then we'll be talking about the rules of Salat al-Jama'ah, the congregational prayer. Are there any rules? How do I join? There are many questions that we have about Salat al-Jama'ah, and we need to make sure that we know these rules so we take advantage of the congregational prayer and the great reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in it. Then finally, we'll address some tips that help us to stay focused in our Salah, to concentrate in our prayer. Now this is a workshop. It's not a formal lecture. So if you have any questions as we proceed, if you need any clarification at any point, feel free to ask us and we can take your comments, questions, and discussions. So now we will begin our prayer workshop with the blessings of as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. The greatest honor that the Almighty God has given to the human being is the opportunity for us to be able to worship Him. That's the greatest gift God has actually given us. Because the Almighty God is the source of all goodness in the universe. When He gives you the opportunity to worship Him, in essence, He's giving you the opportunity to connect yourself to the source of all goodness in the universe. And the one who decides not to worship God, this person is really just harming himself. God doesn't benefit from our prayers. If I don't worship God, if I don't turn to Him, then I am disconnecting myself from the source of all goodness in the universe. I'm denying myself this opportunity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually giving us an opportunity to connect to the source, to the source of all goodness. Any goodness that we have in our lives that we see around us, it goes back to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of all goodness. And by praying to the Almighty God, we're actually connecting ourselves to the source of all goodness in the universe. And really, that is a great honor. We should be thankful to the Almighty God that He's given us this opportunity. He's given us this wonderful, amazing honor. Now, some of us might wonder, why do I need to pray formally in this official way, 5 times a day, 17 rak'ahs or units? Why? Can't I just talk to God whenever I want?
Isn't God closer to me than my own jugular vein, as the Quran says? So why do I need to get up and pray and do wudu and fulfill all these conditions when I can just pray to God, supplicate to Him, talk to Him, take Him as my friend? There's no need for formal prayer, is there? A lot of people ask this question. And that is a valid question. Now, to address this question, we remind ourselves that there are two types of prayer. You've got the informal prayer, when you talk to God whenever you want, you ask Him for anything. You treat God like a trusted friend, like a trusted parent who cares about you, like a compassionate being who cares about you. So absolutely, we can talk to God. We all claim we love God, right? Well, let's see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to comment on that, on our claims that we love Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in one hadith Qudsi, Allah says, He's not honest, the one who claims to love me, but when the night sets and everyone's sleeping, he forgets about me. He doesn't spend some private time with me. Then Allah says, doesn't everyone who's in love want to spend some private time with your loved one? When you fall in love with someone, when you care about someone, don't you want to spend time with them? Get to know them, talk to them, enjoy their company. We claim we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but do we show it? So absolutely, informal prayer is part of Islam. If you look at the lives of the prophets, imams, oftentimes they would supplicate to God in an informal way. They would talk to Him, ask Him for everything. Some people think only if I have an important need, then I'll ask God. No. Who said that? The Prophet ﷺ says, ask God for everything. Someone asked him, even if the strap of my sandal breaks, right? In today's words, even if there's a problem with my shoes, the Prophet said, yes, talk to Allah, ask Him for anything. Don't say, oh, only in these moments I'll talk to God, or if I have a major crisis in my life, then I'll ask Him. No. Allah is your ultimate friend. He's your intimate friend. Ask Him for anything, at any time. So we do have informal prayer. However, at the same time, to respect the status of God, we also need formal prayer. I'll give you an example to see how this works. Let's say you have a very close friend. You have a respectful relationship. You mutually respect one another. You hold each other very dearly to your heart. Let's say you want to spend some time with your friend. And your friend gives you that time. If you want 5 hours, your friend is willing to spend 5 hours with you. Because your friend loves you, your friend cares about you. Now let's say you want to talk to your friend, so you go to your friend's house without an appointment, without a warning, without anything, and you storm in the house. You intrude into his house, and you tell him, okay, let's talk now. Let's spend some 5 hours together. Is this polite or not? That's not really polite. If you want to be polite and respect your friend, then you would call your friend. Tell him, what's your schedule today? Let's set an appointment, a time, and then you go there. See, first you formally approach your friend. You set a time. After formally meeting your friend, then you can sit informally for 5 hours and talk as much as you want. Isn't it so? Even if you have someone who you really respect, let's say a professor, right? Anyone else. You don't just storm into their office and their house, intrude into their lives. Because when you do that, it signifies you're not really showing them respect. So you formally make an appointment with them, then you go and informally sit with them. The same idea applies to prayer. The 5 daily prayers that we pray, this is an official, formal prayer to God. That means, God, now I'm knocking at your door at these 5 times because I take you seriously, because I show respect to you. Once you've done these 5 prayers, and every day you're showing that respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then absolutely, any amount of informal prayer is recommended, it's good. But I can't replace the formal prayer with the informal one. That would mean that I'm not really respecting the status of God. It's like your friend that you can just storm into their house whenever you want. That's not polite. So our formal prayer, in addition to all the benefits that they have, because they have many, many benefits. Salah has a lot of benefits. We can discuss some of the benefits. But in addition to that, and all the benefits that we get from formal prayer, really it's a way for us to respect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to respect the status of God. That God, I take you seriously. I respect you. I thank you. And we do this 5 times a day. So we need formal prayer. We can't just eliminate it and say, oh, there's no need. You know, my faith is in my heart, and whenever I want, I'll talk to God. Yes, talk to God whenever you want. But remember, you have to follow the proper etiquette and respect the status of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's something very important for us to keep in mind. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, salah is very, very important. I cannot stress the importance of praying and establishing regular prayers. Salah is the pillar of our faith. The hadith from the Holy Prophet ﷺ states that if my salah, my act of worship, my prayer is accepted, then all other deeds will be accepted. But if my salah was not accepted, either because I didn't pray, I did not take it seriously, the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ states, then other actions will not have that much value. My other deeds may not be accepted. Because every day, God was calling me 5 times, and I turned my face. 5 times every day. That's offensive to the status of God. When someone calls you, the least you can do is listen. Be polite and listen. That's the least you can do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us every day. So if I spent an entire lifetime knowing that salah is wajib, it's mandatory, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated on me, but I was negligent, I was careless with it, that's offensive to the status of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet says all other deeds will be accepted if your salah is accepted. Another hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam states, the dividing line between true belief and lack of belief, true faith and lack of faith is what? It's salah, it's prayer. Prayer is truly the pillar of our faith. And we find every prophet of God, regardless of what the religion was in the past, every Imam of Ahlul Bayt, they emphasized on prayer. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, before he passed away, as he was on his deathbed, before he was martyred, he gathered his family members, his relatives, and he told them, this is my last will, and this is the will of all prophets. Every prophet before they died, this was their last will. Tell everyone that if you want our shafa'ah, our intercession, you would like us to intercede on your behalf on the Day of Judgment, then you have to pray. Don't be negligent with your prayer. Take your prayer seriously. Show that daily gratitude to the Almighty God through your prayer. لا تنال شفاعتنا مستخفا بصلاته. The Imam says, our shafa'ah shall not include the one who takes prayer lightly, who's negligent with their prayer. Prayer is indeed the pillar of faith, my dear brothers and sisters. So we have to truly treat our prayer with a lot of importance, with significance, with a lot of respect. Now, as we talk about prayer, prayer has conditions. In order for us to offer a valid prayer, a prayer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept, prayer has conditions. Yes, it's the intention that mainly counts. It's the faith that you have in the heart that counts. That's true. But we still have to fulfill those conditions. In our physical world, if you look at this natural world, is the physical world run by our intentions and good intentions? Good intentions play a very important role. But remember, for anything to be functional, for anything to work, it has to have its conditions met. If these conditions are not met, it will not work. Look at everything around you, from the lighting in your house and the electricity that's generated. Do you know how many factors, how many elements are working together to generate electricity for you? If one of them is missing, it's not going to work. These days, we all have passwords, right? Tens, I think some of you might have over 50, 60 passwords, right? Facebook, Twitter, I don't know, your passcode, your university email address, so many other websites, credit cards, accounts. We have passwords, right? Now, to get into your account, you need to type in the appropriate password. If you mess up with one digit, one letter, are you going to go into your account? And if you keep trying and trying and trying, yeah, you're going to get locked out. Exactly. That's what happens. Now, you could fight with the computer and with the network company and tell them, look, my intention was good. I swear, I have good intentions. Come on, why do you give me a hard time? I just forgot one digit. I forgot one word. Is that going to fly? No. It's not going to fly. Even if it's one small little digit, if you don't punch it in correctly, it's not going to work. Is it because Facebook is being stubborn with you? No. Is it because your email provider, they're being stubborn with you? No. No. That's not the reason. Yes, you do have the good intentions. You want to get some good work done. But there are conditions. You have to punch in the password the way it is. Change one digit, it's not going to work. You know, oftentimes we mess up between the 1 and the L. Just recently I was trying to send some books to Toronto, and the zip code was, I think, LVL or LV1, and I was making a mistake in that one digit, and it wasn't working. And then I realized, oh, this is not an L, this is a 1. It's very common. But you have to get the right characters for something to be functional. Every device for it to work, the conditions must be met. From an airplane to a small device that you have. These beautiful airplanes. Do you know how many parts they have? How much technology there is in there? Eliminate one part. If the captain says, you know what, today let's eliminate one part. Let's turn off some buttons. I have a good intention. I want to get my passengers to their destination safely. The plane's not going to fly. That's how the world works. It's the same, my dear brothers and sisters. It's the same with the spiritual world. Because the hadith says, as-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Salah is the ascension of the believer. You fly with your prayer. Just like an airplane carries you and allows you to fly physically, and the airplane has some types of airplanes, they have 6 million parts, and thousands of conditions must be met for the airplane to fly. Same with the spiritual world. In order for you to spiritually uplift yourself and fly with your prayer, you have to observe the conditions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of both worlds. The natural, physical world, and the spiritual world. So I know some of you, sometimes you may get frustrated when you hear about the rulings of prayer, the conditions of prayer. Come on, don't complicate this. It's about me just talking to God and praying to Him. Who cares if I pray this way or that way or this way, or I made a mistake, or I've been praying 20 years wrong. So what? What's the big deal? My intention was good and I wanted to worship God. There is some validity to this point, yes. In the end, it is your intention that counts. But remember, if you want that full benefit of prayer, if you want it to be a functional prayer, a valid prayer, the conditions must be observed. This is just the natural part of our lives, whether the physical world or the spiritual world. So it's very important, my dear brothers and sisters, for us to be aware of the conditions of salah, the conditions of prayer, how to pray correctly. If we pray correctly, then we start seeing the true benefits of prayer. Then we will interact with our salah. And this salah will carry us spiritually to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now let's begin with the first condition of prayer. The first condition of prayer, as you all know, is to be on purity. Now in Arabic we call that wudu, which is the act of purifying yourself, or tahara, the state of purity, being in a pure state. For any salah to be a valid salah, you have to have done a proper act of tahara. You have to be in a pure state. So it's very important for us to know how to get ourselves into that pure state. Because if my wudu is not correct, if I'm not doing the ablution properly, then I'm not observing a fundamental condition of salah. And therefore my salah would be invalid. So it's important for us to know how to do a proper wudu. So very briefly, and if you have any questions, do let me know. Let's walk through the steps of doing a proper wudu, ablution. Remember that ablution is an act of ibadah, it's an act of worship. You're worshiping God by purifying yourself, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be pure. Wudu does not only physically purify you, yes it does. When you wash your face, you wash your hands, that is cleaning you. But it's also giving you spiritual cleanliness. There's a relationship between wudu and being spiritually pure. It's a way to purify the soul. So the wudu is extremely important. And it's an act of worship. And every act of worship requires an intention, a niyyah. So you make the niyyah. You make the intention that I am doing this wudu for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an act of worship to the Almighty God. Qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala, to seek closeness to God. You don't have to say this verbally. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just keep that intention in your heart and your mind. That suffices. So once you've made the intention, then you take some water. Now I will not be going through the recommended steps because there are many mustahabbat of wudu and salah. In tonight's discussion we'll mainly focus on the wajib and mandatory aspect of these rituals. So you take some water with your right hand and you wash your face. That's how the wudu starts. Now your face does not have to be dry before you start your wudu. Even if your face is wet, that's fine. Only the hair and the feet must be dry. But your face can be wet. If your hands are wet, that is fine. This will not invalidate the wudu. So you wash your face. Now before you wash your face, also make sure that there are no barriers on your face that will stop the water from reaching your skin. So if there's something on your face that would stop it, you need to remove it. If it's a type of makeup that will prevent the water from reaching the skin, if it's glitter, if there's some sort of gel that will not allow the water to reach the skin, that must be removed in order for the wudu to be valid. So make sure you remove all barriers from the face before you do the wudu. Because if there are barriers that prevent the water from reaching even one small spot, that will invalidate the wudu. Yes, sister.
hair must be dry. How much of the hair, because usually like, if you take a shower, girls have much longer hair than guys. Is it just like the portion here or the whole thing?
So we'll examine that shortly, but only the area that you have to wipe. That has to be dry. Other parts of the hair can be wet, that's fine. And even your feet, not all of the feet has to be dry, just the area that you have to wipe must be dry. So make sure that all the barriers are removed, then you do the wudu. Now in doing the wudu, you have to observe this very important condition. As you're washing the face, you have to make sure that the movement of the washing is from top to down. So you take the water and you start with your forehead, pour the water there and then keep going down. Go again down to make sure every place is washed. You can't go from down to up. Doing that will invalidate the wudu. Some people, especially those who are doing a very fast wudu, you'll see them take water and then they do this, right? Washing the face. That violates this condition. According to many scholars, this invalidates the wudu. So you have to make sure that you always wash your face or wipe the face in a top to down manner and not the other way. So just the movement has to be vertical, not horizontal, from right to left. Up to down. And if you need to go back up again to wipe the face, lift your hand, move it away from your face, and then go down again. Move it away, go down again, go down again. But don't go up and down. This would invalidate this condition. So this is something to keep in mind. How you wash the face is very important. Now, how much of the face do you have to wash? You start with the hairline. Wherever your hairline is, that's where you have to start washing the face. And then you go all the way down to the chin. That is the vertical area that needs to be covered. Now, what about those guys who are bald and you don't have a hairline? What do? You estimate an average hairline, right? If you had hair, on average, where would your hairline be? You just estimate an average hairline, and you start from that area and you go down. So the vertical area that needs to be covered starts from the hairline and goes down to the chin. What about the horizontal area? How much do you have to cover? The hadith from the Imam alayhi salam states, you have to cover what your thumb and middle finger cover. So open your fingers like that, your hand. See the span of it? The distance between the thumb and the middle finger. How much does it cover? Put it on your face. Usually it goes to the side of your face, right? To the sideburns, right? That's usually where it goes to. That's the area that you have to horizontally wash. Anything more than that to the ear, you don't have to wash that. You can, as precaution, you can wash it to make sure you got the area washed. But that's not mandatory. What's mandatory is for this area to be washed. All the distance between the thumb and the middle finger. That's what the Imam alayhi salam states. So if you take the thumb and the middle finger and then go down, see to what area does it reach? That's where you have to cover and wash your face. Now, how many times do you wash your face? How many times? One time? 2 times? 3 times? There's a lot of confusion around the times of washing the face. I'll summarize it for you very briefly. The wajib and the best number of washing your face is just 1 time. 1 full washing. Now, what do we mean by a full washing? What we mean by a full washing is you fully washing the face, and you consider that as 1 washing. Now, in doing this 1 washing, you can spill water on your face any number of times. You could take water, spill it here, take some more water on the right side, on the left side, to make sure all the face is being washed. But remember, all of that, you consider it one washing. Then once you're done washing all parts of the face, you're sure you got everywhere covered? That's one full washing. So this is the best, one full washing. 2 washings is acceptable, it's fine, but it's better to stick to 1 washing only. 3 washings will invalidate the wudu. It's not part of the wudu. It's like adding an extra rak'ah to your salah, right? That would invalidate your salah. Same with wudu. 1 washing is the wajib, and the best way to do it, just 1 washing. If you want to do it a second time, that's fine, but it's better to do it once. If you do it a third time, a third full washing, that is haram. Because now we're adding to wudu something that it does not have. And this would invalidate the wudu. So always remember, don't wash a full washing 3 times. Make the intention for once, just 1 washing. Remember, you can pour water a few times in each washing. That's acceptable. But a full washing is only once. So now you have washed the face. Now for the brothers who have a beard, you don't have to get the water to the skin underneath the beard. As long as you're wiping or washing the hair on the beard, that's fine. This suffices. You don't need to soak the beard such that you're sure the water is reaching the skin underneath it. That is not wajib. So don't worry about that. So now we have washed the face. Let's move to the right hand. The next act of wudu is the right hand. You take water with your left hand, and then from your left hand, you pour on your arm. Now the area that needs to be covered on your arm is from the elbow all the way down to the tip of your fingers. That's the area that needs to be washed. So take some water, pour it on the elbow area, and let the water just, go down, and then wash your arm in the same manner that you washed your face, going from top to down. So start from the elbow and go down. Lift your hand, start from the elbow again, or the other side of the elbow, and go down. But don't do this, right? A lot of people do this. They go up and down, up and down. Many scholars believe this invalidates the salah. This is problematic. Because the way that we wash the hand has to be from top to down, meaning from the elbow towards the fingers. Yes, brother?
Take the water from with my right hand to the left hand and then do that?
That is mustahab. To take water first in your right hand, then pour it in your left hand, then from your left hand to your arm, that's mustahab. It's recommended. But that is not wajib. It's not wajib. In fact, you don't even need to use your left hand. You could just put your arm under the tap water, right? And you wash it that way. That's fine. But it's mustahab to do it with your hand. And it's more mustahab to do it the way you described. So that's just recommended. That's not wajib. So remember this very important point. Go from top to down. That will be a valid wudu. But if you're going from down to up, that invalidates the wudu. So make sure that you cover the entire arm. Now for the brothers, it's mustahab to pour the water on this side of the arm, the outer side. And for the sisters, it's mustahab to start pouring the water on the inner side of the arm. But remember, this is just mustahab. It's recommended. It is not mandatory. So now you have washed your right arm. Remember, if there are any barriers on your arm, they have to be removed. Now, what are some common barriers that specifically the sisters usually struggle with? Yes? Bracelets? Well, what do you mean? Well, the bracelet on the wrist, if it's not too tight, right, and the water can go underneath it, you don't have to take it off. Even the ring, by the way. Yes, if you're wearing a very tight ring, such that it will prevent the water from reaching the skin, you would either have to move it to make sure the water reaches the skin, or you just take it off. That would be mandatory. So what is the biggest challenge that sisters have? Yes. Lotion. Now if you have any lotion, by the way, remember, what type of lotion are you using? Is this type of lotion preventing the water from reaching the skin or no? If it's a type of lotion that's like the sunscreen that prevents the water from reaching the skin, yes, you do have to remove it. But if it's an average type of lotion that is absorbed into the skin and it will not prevent the water from reaching it, that's fine. You could use that lotion. But there's a bigger challenge. Come on, sisters. You know what the daily challenge is. Yes. Nail polish. I'm glad somebody said it. Nail polish. Most types of nail polish are water resistant, meaning they will not allow the water to touch the fingernail, to reach the fingernail. If you are using this type of nail polish, it has to be removed at the time of wudu. Otherwise, the wudu will be invalid, because then the water did not reach all parts of the hand. Yes, if you happen to be using a type of nail polish that allows the water to reach the skin or the fingernail, like ink, for example. You know, a lot of types of ink, they do have color, but they'll allow the water to reach the skin. That would be fine. That's okay. So be very careful with the nail polish. If you have to put nail polish and it's, you know, maybe an hour or two before the time of salah, do the wudu first, and then you can put on the nail polish, and then that way you could do your salah early on time and you won't have anything to struggle with. But keep that in mind, especially our dear sisters. If there's any barrier on the hand, on the fingernail, it must be removed. Now what about tattoos? For those who do have tattoos. Yes.
Well, sometimes we hear that if you actually do the wudu and then put the nail polish, because it was on the wudu, it's just, you know, you can keep going with the wudu after. Like, you don't have to the rest of it. Yeah, take it off.
Yes, this is exactly what I just stated.
Break, no, even if you break the wudu, you know what I mean? I mean, if I do my wudu and then I put my nail polish and then I break my wudu. So we hear sometimes that as long as you put the nail polish and you were on wudu, it's fine. Is this true?
Whenever the wudu is broken and one has to do a new wudu, the nail polish must be removed. Yes. So you can do wudu and then put the nail polish. Now this wudu will last as long as you don't break it. But let's say if you sleep, if you break the wudu, and you have to do another wudu for the salah, then no, you would have to remove the nail polish for the new wudu. Every new wudu, the water must reach the skin or the fingernails in it. So you would have to remove all barriers. Yes, brother?
So what if you have like a cast on this? What do you do?
Okay, now if someone has a cast, or if you have wounds, a band-aid or something, then we have a special way to deal with that. If you have a cast and you can't wash your arm, or if it's harmful for your arm, you can just wipe on the cast. If you can wipe on the cast itself, do that. If you can't, maybe some water will get in there, then put a piece of cloth on the cast and then just wipe on it, and that's valid. This is something we call wudu al-jabira. So with wounds or casts, we have a special way to address that. Someone had a question? Yes, sister.
What if you have a cut or something that's like open, not close it or something?
So if you have an open wound, do the wudu, but just avoid the area around the wound. So wash your hand very gently, just make sure you don't touch the wound itself, and that would be a valid prayer. That would be a valid wudu. So even though you didn't wash all your hand because of the wound, but that's an exception, that's okay. But barriers, they have to be removed. Yes, sister?
I heard that there's no possibility
Okay, now you're talking about something that is called tayammum. If there is no access to water, or water is strictly harmful to you on your face, on your hands, everywhere, in that case you cannot do wudu, and you would do the ablution of the dust, basically. So that is an alternative to wudu. Now, this is, rarely applicable to most people, but sometimes it is applicable. So if water is harmful for you, not just like an affected area, but all of your arms, and including your face, you would do the tayammum. It's a special procedure where you take your hand, you hit it on the dust, on the ground, and it's a special way in which you would do ablution, and this is an alternative to wudu. Yes, brother. So other schools of thought, very briefly, they have other probably methods or procedures to do that. So now we are discussing the procedure as taught to us by the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt, who represent the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, we're focusing on how they taught us to do the salah and to do the wudu, and we believe this is how the Prophet ﷺ did that. So you wash your right arm. Once you finish with your right arm, then you take water with your right hand, and you do the same exact thing to your left arm. So now you've washed the face, you've washed the right arm, you've washed the left arm. Now once you have finished washing the left arm, be very careful not to acquire any new moisture. Because if after washing your left arm, you put your hand again under the tap water, for example, or you touch something that is wet, you would have to dry that area before you wipe on your head. So make sure, once you have finished fully washing the left arm, don't touch anything that is wet, don't touch new water. This will invalidate the wudu. So once you've finished washing the left arm, then with your right hand, with the tip of your fingers, it's mustahab to use at least 3 fingers. You could even use 1 finger, like your index finger. And then you would wipe on your head. Now when it comes to wiping on your head, it doesn't matter how you wipe your head. You want to go from top to down, down to up, zigzag, diagonal, up to you. It's mustahab to go from top to down in a straight line. But any way you do it, that's fine. The point is you have to just wipe your head. Now the area that needs to be wiped, it has to be in the front area of the head. So not the back of your head, not the sides of the head. This area that is immediately above your forehead, right? That area needs to be wiped. Now in order for the wiping to be valid, this area, my dear brothers and sisters, must be dry. So if your hair in that area is wet, you have to dry it before you can wipe it. So before you start your wudu, make sure that it is dry, so that when you get to wiping it, it is a valid wiping. Now, for those who have long hair, if you have long hair such that the hair that is growing in this area is extending down on your shoulders, for example, into another area, then you have to take an additional step. And that step means that you kind of move the hair, make a part in your hair, part the hair such that now your scalp is exposed, the skin of the head. And as you're wiping your hair, you also have to wipe the scalp. This is if you have long hair. But if you have short hair, you don't need to do that. You can just wipe on the hair and that is fine. But if your hair is long, then part the hair a little bit, make sure a part of the scalp is exposed, then with your fingers wipe on it. That would be a valid wiping. And make sure there are no barriers. Brothers, those who put gel. If there's gel on your hair and you want to do the wudu, you have to know what type of gel is it. Does it block water from reaching the skin or no? Is it water resistant or no? If it is, you have to remove it. Wash it away before wudu, then you can do wudu. Otherwise, the wudu will be invalid. Yes, someone had a question? Yes, brother.
After we do the wudu, and then you find out you're bleeding somewhere, like in your hand or anywhere you did the wudu over.
If you did the wudu, if you did the wudu and then later you got wounded, you started bleeding, that does not invalidate the wudu. Bleeding from wounds is not one of the things that invalidates wudu. Your wudu is still valid. Just wash the blood away before you do your salah, because your body, your clothes have to be clean from blood.
So you say some. So there is some bleeding invalid the wudu?
Generally, all the bleeding from wounds, no. It does not invalidate the wudu. So if you're bleeding on your hands or on your face, that will never invalidate your wudu. You just have to wash it before you go into salah, because that's one of the conditions of salah. So now you've wiped your head. Yes, brother.
So someone can be, I looked up online and someone said that tattoos are haram because it's like it's self-inflicted pain. And then someone else said it's haram because it's like messing with your wudu.
So regarding tattoos, very briefly, it is not haram, it is highly unrecommended. It is makruh to have tattoos, but it's not a sin, it's not haram. It's unrecommended, remember, and I advise against it because it is unrecommended. Now the tattoo, if it will not be a barrier between the water and the skin. You know, many types of tattoo with the needle actually goes under the skin, right? So if that's the case, this will not prevent the wudu and it will not invalidate the wudu. So that would be fine. So now you've wiped the head. After you've wiped the head, the last part of wudu is where? Your feet. With your right hand, you wipe your right feet. With your left hand, you wipe the left feet. Now you start from the toe. You can choose any toe. The big toe is the best, but any other toe is fine. You start from the toe and go up to the ankle bone, this area over here, where it kind of curves, right? As the hadith states, it's like dome shape. That's the area that you have to wipe on your feet. So with your right hand, do the right feet, and then with the left hand, do the left feet. Now as you're wiping your feet, keep one thing in mind. Your feet have to be still, not moving. If I'm lifting my feet and it's moving and I'm wiping it, that invalidates the wudu. Your feet have to be fixed. So either keep them on the ground fixed, or on a chair or something that is raised, keep it fixed, such that the feet is not moving. Or, you know, some people, what they do, they take their foot and they'd rest it on the other leg, and then they would wipe on it. The point is, make sure that your feet are not moving. They are fixed as you're wiping them. Yes?
Why is that besides for
The reason for that is because the hadith states, your hand has to wipe the feet. If the feet is moving, then the feet is also wiping the hand. And that doesn't fulfill the condition. So technically that's the reason. Yes? So if you put something on your fingernails that you personally cannot take it off and you have to go to the salon to take it off, now if you know that you can go to the salon before the time of salah expires, you will have sufficient time and you can do your prayer, that's fine. But if you will miss your salah, it would be haram to put these. Because now that's making you skip your salah. Because it's not allowing you to do a qualified wudu, and as a result, you cannot fulfill one of the conditions of prayer. So my suggestion in that case is to avoid it. Unless you know for sure you can get there in time and get it removed. But if you can't, then you would avoid it. Yes, sister.
After you wipe your arms and there's no need for water, does it invalidate your wudu to turn off the water and then continue with the wudu, or do you have to continue it and not touch anything else around you?
Okay, so after you wash your hands, you're done with your left arm. We said you should not acquire any new moisture. So if you finished washing your left arm, now you want to turn off the tap water, right? If the faucet area where you're going to touch, if that is wet, not just, a little bit moist, but like wet, then yes, don't turn it off at that point. Wait till you finish. But in order not to waste water, here's what I would recommend. Pour water on your left arm, then turn off the water, and then finish the washing. That way you don't have to deal with turning the water off. So that's the best way to do it. Pour water on your left arm. Before you fully wash the left arm, turn off the water, and then complete a full washing. That way you don't end up wasting water. Because if you acquire new moisture, and with that new moisture you wipe your head or feet, that invalidates it.
Is touching anything during water before you wudu, does that invalidate?
Touching anything while you're doing the wudu will not invalidate the wudu. You can touch items, that's fine. But keep in mind two conditions. One, that item should not be wet. Number two, that thing should not be najis. Because when you're doing your wudu, the body parts of wudu have to be clean. They have to be pure. So if it's not najis, you can touch it. No problem. Yes. If someone does wudu, then they vomit, that does not invalidate the wudu. Vomiting is not one of the acts that invalidate wudu. Yes.
Can we talk during wudu? Like someone calls for me and they say like, oh, I'm making wudu. I usually don't respond until I'm done. I never do.
While doing wudu, it's highly recommended to do dua and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it is an act of ibadah. In fact, there are certain prayers that are highly recommended to say during the wudu. And if you need those prayers, we have them here at the IIA. You can ask us, we'll give you a sheet that you can hang in your room or kitchen or wherever you do wudu. It's mustahab, but you can talk during wudu. Talking during wudu to anyone or saying anything will not invalidate the wudu. That's fine. Yes, brother.
I don't get it. How does vomiting not invalidate it but farting can? Because if anything, wouldn't vomiting be more dirty than farting in a way? Because vomiting arguably would feel and smell more, vile and dirty than just farting, you know what I mean?
When it comes to these acts of rituals of ibadah, we go by whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined for us. So according to Islamic law, vomiting does not invalidate the wudu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not consider that as one of the invalidants of wudu. So we take these rituals the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So with that, we have finished our discussion on wudu. I know you still have many more questions. You can write those questions, or in the end, if we have some time, we can address them because we still have a lot to cover. So save those questions. Now let's briefly move on to the ghusl before we get to the salah itself. So the ghusl, the ritual shower, in certain instances, you would have to take a ritual shower in order for your salah to be valid. Now the shower is very straightforward. You do the niyyah that I am doing this shower, for example. You don't have to verbally say it, you just keep it in your heart, in your mind, and that suffices. Then you go under the shower head. You fully wash your head and neck. Fully wash the head and then the neck. Once you fully wash the head and the neck, then you move to the right side of the body. You fully wash the right side of the body. Now this does not mean that water can't splash on the left side. No, it's okay, you're under the shower, it is. But you have to fully wash the right side of the body, then you move on to the left side of the body. All body parts must be washed. If there's any barrier, anything, you need to remove them for the ghusl to be valid. If there's hair on your body and it could be preventing the water from reaching the skin, you have to make sure that the water is reaching the skin. Yes, for those who have very long hair, for example, ladies who have a long hair, the edges of the hair, you know, that part of the hair that's extending outside, it's going towards your shoulders, in a valid ghusl, you don't need to wash that. Only the area around your head needs to be washed. But the long hair that's extending out, you can wash it, that's fine, but it's not mandatory. You don't have to wash it. So this briefly constitutes a ghusl. Now when it comes to the ghusl, brothers and sisters, unlike wudu, you don't have to go from up to down. No, any way in which you wash the head, the neck, that's fine. Any way in which you wash the right side of the body, that's fine. Any way in which you wash the left side of the body, that's fine. But make sure that all body parts are washed. Now this is the most common type of shower or ghusl. There's an easier one, if you have a swimming pool or a jacuzzi, for example, where you just dive into the water, 1 second under the water, fully submerged, and you make the niyyah that I'm doing the ghusl, and you've done your ghusl. Very quick. So you can take a shower, a ritual, religious shower, even in a swimming pool. But make sure that the entire body must be submerged under the water. You make the niyyah, and you make the niyyah, then you submerge yourself under the water, and you do that ghusl. Any questions on the ghusl specifically? Yes, sister.
So, when you say you wash your full head, but not all the hair has to get wet, do you mean like the entire head?
The entire head has to be washed. But let's say someone has very long hair, and the hair is, for example, extending over the shoulders. The tip of the hair, that area does not have to be washed. Yes, but the top, the entire head must be washed.
When you wash your head fully and then you go to the right side, can you stay under the same water and just turn over? Do you have to like kind of step away?
You don't have to step away. You can stay under the water and then just turn, yes. Some scholars say it's mustahab to do that, but you don't have to do that. It's not mandatory. Any other questions on the ghusl? Yes, brother.
The same ghusl as ghusl janaba or the other kinds of ghusl?
So all showers, whether it's the mustahab ghusl al-jum'ah that you do on Friday, whether it's ghusl al-janaba, whether it's ghusl al-hayd or istihada, all of these ghusls are done exactly the same way. The only difference is the niyyah. And by the way, you can combine multiple ghusls in one shower. So let's say on Friday, a person wants to do ghusl al-jum'ah, also ghusl al-janaba or any other ghusl, with one intention that I'm doing ghusl al-jum'ah, ghusl al-janaba and other ghusls, you can do just one shower and it counts for all of them. So you can combine multiple ghusls in one act of ghusl. So this will give you the condition of being in a pure state, my respected brothers and sisters. Doing wudu or doing ghusl if you have to do ghusl. Now you have fulfilled one of the conditions of salah. Now let's get to the prayer itself. Before you start your prayer, keep in mind two things. The first is what you're wearing. What you're wearing has to be clean, tahir, pure. If I've got any urine on my clothes, my salah is invalid. I have to either wash it or change that cloth. What about blood? Blood is excused only to the size of the dirham, as the hadith states. How much is the size of the dirham? Look at your thumb. Look at the fingernail on your thumb. What is the size of your fingernail? Up to this amount, that's excused. So if there's a drop of blood on your clothes, blood from wounds, of course, not other type of blood, blood from wounds, if there is one drop that's less than the size of the fingernail on your thumb, that does not invalidate salah. You can still pray with that. So if there's just some blood on your body, on your clothes, you can pray with that. If it's more than this size, I would say this is probably the size of a dime or a nickel. I don't know. What is it, a dime or a nickel on average? A dime or a nickel. If it's less than that, you can pray with it. If it's more than that, then you cannot. Yes, brother.
Saying if you're talking about blood from your own wound, or what about blood from somebody else?
Even from someone else.
It's not just.
It's not, no, the blood is najis. Remember, the blood is najis. So for example, if there's blood on your finger, you cannot put that in your mouth, for example. The blood is najis, but it does not invalidate salah. It's still recommended to remove it, but you can keep it and your salah will be valid. So it's excused up to this size. But if it's more than that, then the blood needs to be removed. Yes. So pets, dogs, yes, they are najis. Cats are not najis, but dogs are najis. So if you touched a dog with a wet hand, remember, for najasa to be transferred, there needs to be moisture. Either the dog is wet or your hand is wet. So if you touch the dog with a wet hand, you need to wash the hand before you do your salah. Otherwise, the salah will be invalid. So one important condition of salah is for the body parts, for the clothes to be completely pure and free from any najasa. Otherwise, the salah will be invalid. Yes, sister.
You have babies, so like what about a baby's urine or something if I change a diaper?
A baby's urine is still najis, and it still must be removed. It's easier to wash it away with, normally urine you need 2 washings, 2 times to wash it away. With an infant's urine, 1 washing will suffice, but it still has to be washed.
Changing a diaper will invalidate the wudu.
Changing the diaper will not invalidate the wudu. But if your hand touches the urine, you would just have to wash it. No need to redo the wudu. Just wash it. And if you change the diaper of the baby and no urine got on your hands, then you don't have to do anything. So the urine of an infant, yes, it is still najis. You would still have to wash your clothes and your body parts from it if it did get on you. Yes, Amr.
If you done with a ghusl, and it's like time for prayer, and do you have to do wudu?
If someone did their ghusl, do they have to do wudu? So if it's ghusl al-janaba, you do not do wudu after it. No wudu is done after ghusl al-janaba. Unless you do one of the things that invalidate wudu, of course. But let's say you did the ghusl and now you want to pray. Don't do wudu. Ghusl al-jum'ah, scholars have different opinions. Some scholars and maraji' say if you do ghusl al-jum'ah, no need to do wudu, you can pray with it. Other maraji' say no, you have to do wudu even after you do ghusl al-jum'ah. So there are some differences of opinion when it comes to that. So now, we were discussing the ghusl. We finished with the ghusl. Now we're talking about the conditions of prayer before you start praying. So make sure that the body or your clothes do not have any najasa on them, any impurity. That's number 1. Number 2, leather. If you are wearing leather from a halal animal, an animal that is halal to eat, and it was killed or slaughtered the Islamic way, halal leather, you can pray with it. That's okay. However, if the leather is from a haram animal, like what type of animal? Okay, like pigs, for example. What else? Ducks? Is there leather from ducks? Assuming there is, ducks are halal, by the way. They're not haram animals.
Alligators.
Crocodile, right? Haven't you been to the mall and they sell, that band for the watches made from crocodiles, made from snakes? It's common. I've seen them at the mall here. You cannot pray with that. Because a crocodile is not halal to eat, right? A snake is not halal to eat. So any leather from a haram animal, an animal that we cannot eat in Islamic law, you cannot pray in it. That's number 1. Number 2, if the animal is halal to eat, like a cow, for example, like a sheep, for example. But it was not killed the Islamic way. Like here, for example, the companies in this country, they don't prepare the animals the Islamic way. That leather is najis. If you touch it with a moist hand, it becomes what? You cannot pray in it. So brothers, if you have a belt that's made from leather that you purchased here from a non-Muslim company or a non-Muslim country, you cannot pray in that leather. If your watch has a leather band, you cannot pray in that. And I know this will disappoint many of you. If you're wearing jeans and you've got that logo, what do you call it on the back of the jeans? It's usually made from leather, right? Can you pray in that? Problematic, because now you're praying in leather. You would have to remove that. If you didn't know, don't freak out. It's okay, you didn't know. But from now on, make sure that if you're wearing any jeans and it's got that, what do you call them, by the way? Does it have a name? Tags? Those leather tags on the back or in any other area, you would have to remove that. If it's genuine leather and it's not from a Muslim country or from a Muslim market, it was not taken from an animal that was slaughtered the halal way, you cannot pray in that. Keep that in mind. So remember that leather, haram leather, will make you najis if you touch it with moisture. If you touch it while your hand is wet. For those of you who have cars with leather seats, and we're talking about genuine leather, not synthetic, man-made leather. Genuine leather, right? And there's no coating on it. Some cars will use leather and there's a fine coating on it. There's a layer on it. If there's a layer on it, that layer is a barrier. That's fine. But if the leather itself is exposed, and let's say it's raining outside, and your shirt or your pants got wet, and you're sitting in your car, and that touched the leather, what happened to your clothes? They became najis. So you can't pray with those clothes, you would have to change them. So keep that in mind. Leather that is haram will invalidate the salah. What else for men? Wearing gold in salah. A watch made from gold. A golden ring. Golden glasses. Real gold, right? We're not talking about gold plating or gold coloring. No, real gold. If it's real gold, first of all, for men, generally speaking, it's haram to wear gold, right? In Islamic law, men cannot wear gold. Now, if you're wearing gold in salah, that invalidates the salah. That invalidates the prayer if you're wearing gold and you're praying with that gold. Yes, brother?
What if you have like gold teeth?
Gold teeth are an exception. Because technically, we don't consider that wearing something. The hadith says, don't pray while wearing gold. Having golden teeth is not considered technically wearing gold, so that's an exception. But anything else is. Now, some of you may be wondering, there are watches, and inside the watch is some material. Inside the watch, we'll use some golden parts. That's also fine, because that's not technically considered wearing gold. So for men, gold and pure silk, wearing pure silk, will invalidate the salah. Now, one last thing about the clothing in salah is that for the men, the private area has to be covered, otherwise the salah will be invalid. Now, I know some brothers will ask, can we pray with shorts, for example? It is a valid prayer to pray with shorts for men, but it's highly unrecommended. It is unrecommended. The area between the stomach, the belly, and your knees should be covered in salah. It's highly, highly recommended to cover this area. So you can pray with shorts. However, it is unrecommended. Remember, you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the universe, and you're talking to Him. So be in your best state. For the sisters, the entire body must be covered, except the face, the two hands from the wrist, so the arms have to be covered, and the 2 feet. These are the 3 exceptions. They can be exposed during salah. All parts of the body must be covered. So scholars have mentioned if you're wearing clothes and the clothes are, for example, see-through, such that the arm is exposed and showing, that invalidates the salah. So if you're wearing something that, for example, has a see-through sleeve, cover that. Wear something on it and then do your salah, or change it with another shirt, with another garment that is not see-through. So these are some very brief conditions when it comes to the clothing of salah. Yes. Yes. If you're praying and then what happens? If you're praying and someone walks in front of you, runs in front of you, that does not invalidate the salah. In fact, if this person just stands there and does not move, that does not invalidate your salah. So don't worry about that. So now we've talked about the conditions of clothing in prayer. Now let's get to the prayer itself. Finally, what time is it? 8 o'clock, we're almost out of time. So now let's talk about the salah itself. The salah starts with the intention. You make the intention, what salah is this? Is this salat al-subuh, the morning prayer, salat al-dhuhr, salat al-asr, salat al-maghrib, salat al-isha? So you make the niyyah. Then you do takbirat al-ihram. You stand towards the qibla. Allahu Akbar. Is it wajib to do this? To raise your hand to your head or ears? Is that wajib? No. That's mustahab. You can just stand there and say, Allahu Akbar. That's fine. But it's highly recommended to raise your hand as you're saying Allahu Akbar. And the best way to do it is this. When you start the alif of Allahu, you raise your hand. Allahu Akbar. Such that by the time you're done with the takbirah, your hand is back down towards your body. So this we call takbirat al-ihram. This officially allows you to start your salah. You officially begin the salah. Once you start the salah, you recite Surah Al-Hamd. Make sure you've memorized it correctly and you can pronounce it correctly to your best ability. If Arabic is not your mother tongue, you're not, primary language, do your best to try to pronounce it. If you just can't, that's fine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold you responsible. Do your best to learn it. So you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, until you get to the end, Wala Dhalleen. After that, you recite any surah of your choice. Any surah of your choice, you can recite it. It doesn't have to be Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad. Any other surah, the only exception are those 4 surahs which have a wajib, mandatory sajda. You cannot recite those in salah. But any other surah qualifies. So you read the surah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You read the surah. Now 2 things. For the men, the Bismillah always must be recited loudly, with a voice, not whispering. Whether it's the morning, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha prayer, when you say Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Bismillah must be recited loudly. And when I say loudly, I don't mean shouting. No. Meaning you use your voice. Not whispering. Not like this. No. You have to recite it loudly. So you recite the Basmalah. As for the surah, brothers, if you're praying Salat al-Subuh, or Maghrib, or Isha, the Surah Al-Hamd and the following surah has to be done loudly. Otherwise the prayer will be invalid. So if you ever forget, just remember this. The prayers that are done in bright daylight, like Dhuhr and Asr, silent. The prayers that are done in darkness, right? Maghrib, Isha, morning, you recite it loudly. The sisters, they don't have to recite it loudly. They can recite it loudly if they're in their private room and there are no non-related men listening. They can recite it loudly, that's fine. But if there are non-related men, non-mahram men, very close to them, they should recite it silently. So once you've done the surah, you go into ruku'. Allahu Akbar ruku'. Is this takbirah wajib? No. The first takbirah in your salah, takbirat al-ihram, is wajib. All other takbirahs, Allahu Akbar, is just mustahab, highly recommended. You don't have to do them. You should do them, but you don't have to. So you do the takbirah and then you go into ruku'. Now as you're doing the ruku', brothers and sisters, keep in mind two things. First of all, try as much as you can to form a right angle when you're doing the ruku', such that your back is straight. So you're doing a full ruku', your back is straight. Some people do like this. That's invalid. Unless you have a problem, like back pains or a medical condition, that's okay. You're excused. But if you don't have a medical condition, doing a ruku' like this, that's an invalid ruku'. That will invalidate the salah. And I know sometimes you're in a hurry, you don't give yourself enough time to do a full ruku'. That invalidates it. Because remember, you have to recite in your ruku'. So if some people, this is how they pray. Allahu Akbar, they get to the ruku'. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim wa bihamdih, Allahu Akbar. Invalid. That's not a valid ruku'. You go into the ruku'. Once you're firm, stable, not moving, then you do the dhikr. It's mustahab to say one of these two phrases. Either you say Subhana Rabbi al-Azimi wa bihamdih, or you say Subhanallah. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Or you could do a combination of both, even better. Any one of these two suffices. You can say it in your ruku'. Once you've said that, then you raise your head. You stand upright. And you have to stand upright for at least a moment. You know what some people do? They're in the ruku', they get up, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, Allahu Akbar, without standing upright for a moment. That invalidates the salah. You have to stand, even if it's just half a second, fine. But you have to stand. Once you've stood, then you go into your sujood. You go into your sujood. You're praying on the urus, on the prayer tablet. According to Islamic law, we can pray on anything that grows from the ground, that is not eaten and not worn. So all the fruits and the food, you can't obviously do sujood on it because it's edible, it's eaten. And all those types of fabric made from cotton, for example, you cannot do sujood on them. Why? Because they're worn. Anything else, grass, wood, leaves, rocks, anything else suffices. The best is just dust, right? Dirt, soil. And the best of the best is the dust from Karbala. We have hadiths about that, that if you pray on the dust, on the prayer tablet, on the urus of Karbala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply the rewards. Now if you're doing the sujood, and then you get this rambunctious little child who runs like Superman, grabs your prayer tablet and leaves. What do you do in this case? If you have a piece of paper in your pocket or somewhere around you, take it out. If there's anything around you that you can do sujood on, a piece of paper, a piece of wood, a rock, whatever it is, then you would have to do that. If not, if you're wearing clothes made from cotton, then do sujood on cotton, on that piece of cloth. For example, let's say it's a sleeve, it's a piece of cloth made from cotton or linen. Al-qutn wal-kattan. If it's from cotton or linen, and you absolutely don't have anything else to do sujood on, no dust, no tree leaves, no grass, no nothing, then in that case, the next step would be what? To do sujood on cotton or linen if you have them. If you don't, then you can do sujood on minerals like gold, silver. If you have a gold bracelet, watch, or something else, necklace, you can do that as the third step if there's no cotton or linen. If that is not to be found, the last step would be what? The back of your palm, your hand. You put your hand, the back of your palm. So you just put your palm on the ground. On the back of your palm, you do your sujood. That's as a last resort if you have none of these items that we mentioned. So you get to the sujood. We have 2 sujoods in each rak'ah. The dhikr that you say in your sujood is what? Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih. Or Subhanallah. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Any one of these counts. As you're doing your sujood, 7 body parts have to touch the ground. Number 1, forehead must be on the ground. Number 2, the 2 palms of the hand, they must be on the ground. That's 2 and 3. Next, the 2 knees. The 2 knees must be on the ground. That's 5, 4 and 5. And what's 6 and 7? The big toe. Believe me, many people get this wrong. When they're doing the sujood, they're not praying a proper sujood. Some people put the back of the foot on the ground. They just rest it. The tip of your big toe must be touching the ground. The tip of it, right. The tip of it must be on the ground. That would be a valid sujood. Can I have one of the brothers demonstrate for us? Yes, Brother Ryan. Come towards the Qibla. Do the sujood. Let's see how the toe must be. So you're doing the sujood. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih. Do you see his big toe? His big toe must be on the ground. Now, Brother Ra'id, do it like some other people do. Put your feet on the ground. No, not this way. Yeah, put it like that way. That's, if the tip of your toe is not touching the ground, that's invalid. The tip of the big toe must be touching the ground. Make sure that you do this in order for your sajda to be valid. Yes, brother.
Okay, what about the nose?
The nose is mustahab to touch the ground or the prayer tablet. Mustahab. It is not mandatory, it is not wajib. It is only recommended. So now you've done the second sajda. You get up to what? The second rak'ah. And you do the second rak'ah just like you did in the first rak'ah. There's only one mustahab thing in the second rak'ah. After the second surah, before you go to ruku', we do what is called a qunut. A qunut, you raise your hand, you do a dua. It could be in any language, you can do any prayer you want. Yes, there are mustahab prayers that we commonly recite, but that's not wajib. Then you go down to the ruku' and the sujood. After the second sujood, in the second rak'ah, what do? Tashahhud. You sit down. How do you sit down? You've seen how we sit in tashahhud? What do you call this type of sitting in English? Not crisscross, that would be a different type of sitting. So not the way you're sitting. You know how we sit during tashahhud, right? You have to sit in that position unless you have a medical concern. Like Brother Ra'id is sitting right now. This is the sitting of tashahhud. You sit like that, and then you say the tashahhud. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And then you get up to the third rak'ah if you have a third rak'ah. Or if you're doing Salatul Subh, for example, a 2-unit prayer, you finish. And you do the tasneem. So you get up to the third rak'ah. In the third rak'ah, you recite this silently. Everyone, even brothers, silently. Even in Isha and Maghrib. What do you say? Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. You say this 3 times or 1 time suffices. You can say it 1 time and that suffices. It's mustahab to say it 3 times. So this is rak'ah 3 and 4. Now when you're done after the tashahhud, you do the tasmeem. So after saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, what do you say? Assalamu alayka ayyuha an-nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're done. It's mustahab to say 3 times, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That's mustahab, that's not wajib. So with that, you have completed the prayer. Now very briefly regarding goofing up in salah. We have 5 pillars of salah. These 5 pillars, if you mess up with them, you forget to do them, the salah is invalid. Number 1 is what? Wudu. You forgot to do wudu. You just remembered, oh, I forgot to do wudu. Salah is invalid. Yes, if you just had a doubt, let's say now you had a doubt after you prayed, can I do wudu for that prayer or no? Or you remembering yesterday when I prayed, did I have wudu? If the time is expired, that's fine. The hadith says, assume your salah is valid. But if you know for a fact that you forgot to do the wudu or the ghusl, the salah is invalid. That's number 1, the pillar, tahara. The second pillar is time. If you discover that you prayed before the adhan, the adhan is at 1:35 p.m., you prayed at 1:30, 1:25 mistakenly, you would have to repeat that prayer. Or if you prayed outside of time, the salah became qada and you didn't know and you prayed it with the intention that it's in time, you would have to repeat that. This is the second pillar. The third pillar, takbirat al-ihram. If you forgot to do it, you stood, you were so preoccupied, you stood for salah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. No takbirat al-ihram. Salah is invalid. Number 4, ruku'. If you forgot to do a ruku' and a rak'ah, salah is invalid. If you added a ruku' and a rak'ah in a unit, salah is invalid. Number 5, sujood. The 2 sujoods together make up 1 pillar. So if you forgot to do the sajdas in any of the unit, that salah will be invalid. Any other doubts that you have after salah, if it's just a doubt, remember, as long as your salah is done, you said assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Any doubt that you have after the salah, what happens? You don't have to do anything. If it's a doubt, you don't have to do anything. You just dismiss those doubts. But if you remember that you did something wrong, for example, you forgot to do a tashahhud. Oh, I forgot to do the tashahhud in the second rak'ah. What do you do in that case? Salah is valid. You don't need to redo the tashahhud or the salah. All you do after salah, you do the tashahhud. You're finished with your salah. I remembered, oh, I didn't do the tashahhud. Sit down towards the qibla and say the tashahhud. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lahu. We call this the qada of the tashahhud. You're making up the tashahhud. Then you do sajdatay as-sahw. How many of you have heard of sajdatay as-sahw? Whenever you forget to do something in salah that's not a pillar, like ruku' and sujood, or you add something mistakenly, you would have to do sajdatay as-sahw. So briefly, the way in which we do sajdatay as-sahw, you face towards the qibla, you do 2 sujoods. And it's recommended to say this in your sujood. Bismillah wa billah, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Raise your hand. You go to the second sujood. Bismillah wa billah, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You don't have to say this. You could just say subhanallah, 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 that's fine. Then you do a tashahhud and a tasbih, and you're done with sajdatay as-sahw. So anytime you remember that you goofed in your salah, you added something, you subtracted something, if it's one of those 5 that you goofed, tahara, time, takbirah, ruku', sujood, the salah is invalid, you would have to repeat it. Anything else, the salah would not be invalid. So, let's now briefly talk how much time do we have? 8:20, about 10 minutes? We have about 10 minutes. Let's briefly talk about the doubts in salah. Anytime you have a doubt in the number of units that you're praying, if the doubt is in Salat al-Subh or Salat al-Maghrib, so a 2-unit or a 3-unit prayer, what happens to your Salah? Invalid. You'd have to restart. This is if you have a doubt. If you have a dhann, what is a dhann in Arabic? What does it mean?
Shak.
Shak is a doubt. Shak is like 50-50. Right? What's a dhann? I guess, right? It's like at 70%, 80%, 90%. We call that dhann. Anytime you have one that I'm in the third, I'm in the second, I'm in the first rak'ah, that's fine. You just assume that you are in that unit. But if it's a complete doubt, I have no clue. Am I in the first rak'ah or the second rak'ah? So whenever you have doubt in the morning prayer or in Salat al-Maghrib, the Salat is invalid. Whenever you have a doubt in the first rak'ah or in the second rak'ah of Salat al-Dhuhr, Asr or Isha, the Salah is invalid. So I don't know, am I in the first or the second? Invalid. So what are the scenarios in which my Salah can be valid? If I have a doubt, am I in the third or the fourth? And you're thinking you couldn't guess in which rak'ah you are. What do you do in that case?
You go with the most percentage.
You go always with the highest number. If I don't know, if I am in the third rak'ah or the fourth rak'ah, what do? I assume I am in the fourth rak'ah. You finish your salah, assuming you were in your fourth. Then once you finish your salah, immediately after, what do? No, not sajdatay saw. One rak'ah ihtiyat. We call it rak'at al-ihtiyat or salat al-ihtiyat. You get up, Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha, then you do ruku', sujood, tashahhud, tasneem. This is what we call a precautionary salah. Meaning, in case in reality you prayed only 3 rak'ahs, this would complete it and you have 4. And if in reality you had prayed 4, this will not count. You just brought an additional rak'ah. So if you're between 3 and 4, you always assume you are in the highest number. What if you find yourself in salah confused? Am I in the 4th or 5th rak'ah? You have to finish at the 4th one, right? In Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha. If you find yourself in the 4th or 5th rak'ah, you don't know which is it. What do you do in this case? If you're standing and you're saying Subhanallah walhamdulillah, and then suddenly it struck you, am I in my 4th or I am in my 5th? What do? Sit down. Sit down, finish your salah. Do the tashahhud, do the tasneem. Then once you've done that, get up and do rak'at al-ihtiyat. 1 rak'ah as precaution. Because in case you were really in your 4th, well, you sat down, you didn't finish it, so you may have only prayed 3 full rak'ahs. So this would finish it for you. And you also have to do, in this case, sajdatay as-sahm. The last scenario over here. If you don't know whether you're in your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Yeah, believe me, sometimes we're that confused. You don't know, am I in my 2nd? You raise your head from sujood. Was this my 2nd rak'ah? Is it my 3rd? Is it my 4th? What do you do in this case? You assume you're in your 4th. You finish it. Then you get up and you do 2 salahs. The first one, you do 2 rak'ahs. You get up and you do 2 rak'ahs as a precaution. So that in case you only really pray 2, you have these 2 additional. Once you finish these 2 rak'ahs, you start another salah, 2 rak'ahs while sitting down. While sitting down, you pray these 2 rak'ahs. And remember, whenever you sit down and pray 2 rak'ahs, how many does it count? One. It counts as one rak'ah. When you're sitting down and praying, it counts as one rak'ah. So in reality, if you did only 3, this one rak'ah, which you do by doing 2 rak'ahs while sitting, it constitutes 1 rak'ah. That also has you covered. So this is if you have any doubts on salah. Any questions? Yes, brother.
What about if I just finish it and repeat it back again?
What if you just stop your salah and then repeat it again? Scholars have different opinions. Some scholars believe that's fine, that's optional. Just break your salah and then start over. Some of them say no, you don't have the right. You have to do it this way. So it depends.
It depends who we follow.
Yes, it depends who you follow. But if you do it this way, the way I've described, it's definitely a valid salah. Now, brothers and sisters, there were some other points that we could cover about salah, the rules of salat al-jama'ah, for example. That's very important. How to concentrate in your salah. But we're out of time, and it's the time for salah. So we can schedule another workshop, and we can continue those very important discussions. Because there's a lot to discuss in jama'ah. How do you form the line? How do you connect yourself? There are kids praying with us. What happens? How do we concentrate in salah? How is our salah accepted? So we will continue that in the future. Yeah.
Why do you think
So very briefly about combining the prayers. We believe that the Prophet ﷺ made it optional for the Muslims to separate between the prayers, pray Dhuhr and then after some time pray Asr, or combine them. It's optional even if you're not traveling, even if it's not raining. Sometimes the Prophet would do that. He was not traveling, there was no rain, there was no inclement weather, and yet he would combine.
even before Asr prayer?
Even before Asr prayer. So yes, combining the prayer is something that you can do. It's optional. So you choose. You like to combine the prayers, or you like to separate? Yes. So, an expectant mother or someone who has, let's say, a medical condition, if it's difficult for you to stand, try standing as much as you can. So start the first rak'ah standing. And then if you feel you get too tired, just sit and continue your prayer now. That's valid. What about the ruku' and the sujood? If it's difficult for you to do a full ruku' and a full sujood, can you do half a ruku'? For example, go halfway and do the ruku'. If you're able to do that, do that. If even that you cannot do, there will be pressure, for example, on the stomach, and that's difficult. In that case, you do what is called iman. Iman in Arabic is an alternative to the ruku' and the sujood. So instead of doing the ruku', just lower your head like this. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim wa bihamdih. That counts as your ruku'. Same would apply to the sujood. If you can go to the sujood, for example, have a table in front of you, put the oros on it, and then do half the sujood, do that. If that is even painful or problematic, don't do that. While you're sitting, just lower your head now more than a little, like this. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih, Allah. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih, Allah. That constitutes as a valid sujood. So anyone who has difficulty doing the ruku' and the sujood, the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt have explained to us that we can do this, and this is a perfectly valid salah. Yes, Father. So in the third or fourth rak'ah of your salah, such as Dhuhr, Asr, Isha, you have the option of either doing the tasbihah, Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar, either once or 3. Or you have the option of reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Hamd. It's better to do the tasbihah, but that's optional. It's up to you. regardless whether jama'ah or furada. That is optional to you. The Imam specifically mentioned in the hadith, you choose. You'd like to do the tasbihah, or you'd like to recite Surah Al-Hamd, that is optional. But remember, tasbihah is better, has a greater reward. Yes?
لصلاة الجماعة يعني حين النساء الخالد الاتصال بالرجال أحيانا التواصل يكون عن طريق كتاب أو طريق إصبع السلام
صلاة الجماعة
أحيانا يكون شخص جالس على كرسي فكيف احنا يكون التواصل قد المسافة بين
صلاة الجماعة بما أن فيها تفاصيل كثيرة هذه نأجلها إلى جلسة أخرى إن شاء الله. صلاة الجماعة, brothers and sisters, the sister's asking a question about forming the lines and how to be connected. Because Salat al-Jama'ah has a lot of details and there's a lot to discuss, we'll postpone that to a separate program, inshallah, because the time for the adhan is now and they have to break for the Salah. So if you have any questions, please write them down. You can forward it to us. We'll address them. If you can include an email or a number, or you can wait till the next workshop that we'll have. We'll announce it, inshallah. We'll organize a date to have the workshop possibly a weekend. And we'll look at phase 2 of the Salah, which is Salat al-Jama'ah, and also some tips on concentrating in Salah. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for participating in this session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all.